Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to specifically talk to those of you who become really triggered by criticism. I'm Iris Sirianni. I'm a self-love coach and a spiritual mentor, and I help people heal and transform their inner world so that they have better, more positive life experiences. So let's talk about why we become triggered by criticism. What happens when we are triggered by criticism, it is triggering a belief that we have about ourselves that we are not good enough, that we are not worthy somehow, and that somehow we always have to be proving that we are good enough. I see this a lot in people who are very empathic and who are very sensitive and who are also people pleasers. And nobody wants to be seen as not being good enough. But where did this idea or where did this belief of not being good enough come from? As with all things, it comes from something that we've experienced in our past. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the experience had to be some big catastrophic event that caused us to believe that somehow we have to prove that we're good enough. We have to prove that we are worthy. But it was something that happened that had us formulate that in order to feel like we are good enough and that we are doing the right thing all the time, that we have to present ourselves or be seen in a certain way. So in an unhealed state, we become very sensitive to those triggers of believing that we aren't good enough and that we aren't worthy. The other part of this is the people pleasing part of the equation. When we are spending so much of our energy in taking care of other people, putting the needs of other people over and above what our own very basic needs are, which is very often what happens, is we don't take care of ourselves and we don't take care of our own needs, and we sacrifice ourselves so that other people get what they need and that they're taken care of. But really what it is, it's reflecting back to us that part of us that doesn't feel like we're good enough. And so we deflect and we put all of the attention onto the outside world, and thereby we get validation and value from the external world. But when it comes to the criticism piece, we are so sensitive about being criticized because we don't have a strong sense of self. And we don't have a strong sense of self because we're always outward focused. We're not inward focused. We've never taken the time to discover really who we are on the inside. We are already empathic. We are already sensitive. We are already a good person. You are already a good person. But we haven't quite tapped into the fact that we don't need to prove that to anybody, and not so much energy needs to go into trying to be perceived as that good person. So on one hand, it is a sense of self and a sense of identity, and on the other hand, it's that trigger that has us feeling like we are not good enough and that we need to prove that we are good enough. And so then the question becomes, well, how do I turn that around? To turn that around really is the reflection on the inside. Why do you feel like you're not good enough? Why do you not feel worthy? I know for me, there were a couple of things in my past. Some of the things that I experienced were a little bit more traumatic in the experiences, and some of them were just young childhood life experiences. So for example, I wasn't born in an English speaking house, English is my second language. And you wouldn't know that now because I've been in Canada for my whole life, basically. But English wasn't my first language. And I started school at a very young age. And I probably would have done very well to be held back for a year before starting kindergarten, but I wasn't. And I wasn't emotionally ready to start school at that time. So, because my first language was German, and because I wasn't ready to be in kindergarten at 4 years old, I had a really hard time learning the English language and really understanding concepts throughout my young childhood years in school. And I always felt like I was inadequate in some ways. And I always felt like I had to work extra hard to accomplish things and to understand concepts and just the way that my brain processed information. But over the years, what I heard was, you're not really smart and you're not really dumb. You're kind of right in the middle. You're a little bit mediocre, was my interpretation of that. But as I got older, I realized, I started to sense that I actually was pretty intelligent. I have a very good vocabulary and I do have a lot of skills and talents and abilities, but still that belief system still was inside of me. So I was always trying to prove that, yeah, I was smart enough. See, I am smart enough. See, I can understand things. See, I have skills and talents and abilities. And I was trying to prove myself to everybody else and not even the people from my younger years. But this is how we create these belief systems. So to begin to change this around, can you look at, well, where did the belief that I am not good enough come from? And I know that sometimes we're bullied when we're teenagers, and that really strips away at our self-confidence and our self-esteem and our self-worth. And we exert a lot of energy trying to prove that we are good enough, that we are worthy, that we are intelligent or smart. You are already all of those things. So where did those beliefs come from for you? And can you challenge those beliefs? Is it really true? That's something that I had to do for myself. Do I see my own intelligence now? Do I see my own worth and my own value? Can I let go of trying to have to prove myself? So that was one thing. That has to do with the trigger part of it. The second part of it, again, is creating that identity for yourself, that sense of self. Who am I? I just did a video on the power of I am, and I'll leave a link up here and I'll also leave a link in the description box below. But the words I am and then whatever follows that is a very powerful statement about who we are, who we believe we are. And so when you go inward and we heal those things that happened to us in the past that have us believing we are anything but really powerful creators of our own reality, and that by using those powerful words, we can actually transform ourselves and our lives through using positive words, we begin to heal. And when we use those very powerful I am statements to really anchor in a strong sense of who we are, which is a fractal of light from God's source, from the universe, whatever you want to call it, you start to believe that you are very powerful and that you can create a life that is much more satisfying and much more enjoyable to you, and you are less and less and less susceptible and triggered by the criticism of other people. And the final thing I want to say about criticism from other people is that everybody has an opinion. Don't we all have an opinion about something? But what's really important to understand about other people's criticisms or judgments about you is that they are projecting their perspective of their internal belief systems and value systems on to you. That is them seeing through their own lens something about you that they themselves don't agree with, which should have no bearing on you, because that's how they feel about themselves. That's how they see their internal world. That's how they perceive themselves. And that then is projected onto you. We are always projecting our inner world outside in the world around us. So keep that in mind when you do bump up against somebody that has something to say about you. It's just a projection of themselves through the lens that they see their life, themselves, and their life. That's nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with that person. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that you found this valuable. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you haven't already done so, I have a free guide that you can download from my website. It is How to Change Your Life by Loving Yourself. And I will leave a link to that in the description box below. And until I see you on the next video, take good care.